We talked last week about McCaskills from Pappy and from Harris. A different McCaskill this time. Well, they might have been related at some point. It's a Norse name, so some way of the generation between the Norsemen and now there could be some relationship. But this particular was in Uists. And it's connected with the Heisker Islands, Monagh Islands. They're out on the Atlantic coast of North Uist. If that's North Uist, there's Heisker sitting way out here. Mainly sandbanks. A very fertile place. The first detailed record we have of it, in rentals and so on, is 1792, where there are 11 tenants there. But a few years later, it's empty. And according to Belalage, to oral tradition, the reason it went empty was disease among the cattle. And that's a recurring theme we'll get in and out again when we're doing talks. Late 1700s, cattle disease coming to the islands. I think we know what caused it, but we'll come to that again in more detail. But in 1812, there's one tenant, Malcolm McCaskill. You think, well, if everybody else had to leave because of cattle disease, how did he carry on? But the answer again is in Belalage, in oral tradition, because he's officially Callum McCaskill, but in tradition he's Callum Callum of the Seals, and he made his living from killing the seals, selling the flesh, and the oil particularly, because seal oil was very much used as a waterproofing for boots in the days before wellies and so on. So anyway, by 1814 he's still out there, Cumnaron, living in Monagh. But a few years later he's moved into main North Uist. The whole north coast of North Uist is tidal sands, but over here is the end of Ally. And you can reach that at low tide, no problem. The high tide is a bit dodgy in places. But there's one or two islets, tidal islets in the way, including the one here called Gaedisclitch. And that's the place that was connected with Cumnaron, and particularly this family, Donald. So we're talking about the 1820s now. We've got the family living there. Now, in the 1840s and 50s, you started the clearances in North Uist. 1820s, the Clachan was cleared. The 1850s, MacDonald, or rather his accountants, were trying desperately to get some more land for farms, and they wanted to clear the villages here. They cleared Greenatot, they wanted to clear Solace and Dunskeller and the Kirrimeanoch and Malachrit. But the people, they were offered a free trip across to Ontario, and quite a few took it. But then they decided to rebel, and they went against, the army was brought in to get them out, and one or two of them ended up arrested and in the jail in Inverness. And the rest were persuaded, mainly by a Society of the Free Church, that there was empty land here along the sides of Loch First, and that they should go and settle there and make good land out of it. Now, it was the fashion at that time to think you could do that. It was absolutely porridge of bog, and they couldn't make anything of it. There a couple of years and they had to give up. And it so happened then, that was the time when the Australian governments were desperate for settlers, because they were getting plenty of settlers, but most of them landed, took a job and then disappeared into the dark to go to gold diggings. And they reckoned if they could get whole Highland family units to go out, they would stay on the land and not disappear. So they were advertising, and particularly they wanted people from Skye and Harris and North Uist. It was done through the Highlands and Islands Immigration Society. Hundreds of them were encouraged to go out to Australia between 1852 and 1857, and included in them an awful lot of people who had tried to make something out of Loch First. The south side wasn't too bad, and some people stayed there, but the north side was, say, porridge. Well, Cumnaron's son Donald had moved from Malachrit with them to Loch First. It's actually called Perth in Uist at the time, because it was the Perth Society of the Free Church that was organising it. And they decided they were going to leave. And the Highlands and Islands Immigration Society had chartered one of the biggest ships of the time, the Hercules. She was a naval ship, and she was going to Hong Kong. Well, she didn't sink on the way. She was going to Hong Kong, and oh yeah, it's a giggle somewhere. Can we go back to the ship, the Hercules, this major ship that was going out to going out to Hong Kong. And they reckon if the kids had her out, she could take the largest number of immigrants there ever were from the islands and take them some to Adelaide, some to Melbourne in Australia. So that was arranged, and they set off. December 26th, is 53, they set off. And the idea was that the people from the islands would go down to Glasgow. Originally they were supposed to board the Hercules in Port 3, but you couldn't make it with the depth of water, and in the end they go to Campbellstown. Now, Donald McCaskill, Machon and his family, they were all on board, went down. But his daughter Margaret had a boyfriend, and Donald MacDonald, Dolver Hurruwidi, he wanted to go with them. But because the idea was for family units, the society wouldn't take a single man, because they reckoned he was much too liable to go to the gold setup. So Donald stowed away on board this whacking great ship, and of course was discovered. And they got to Glasgow, so they'd all arranged to send him back home to Uists, parting from his girlfriend. So the rest of the emigrants did a whip round and gathered enough money to pay a minister in Glasgow to marry the two of them, and so they continued on their way. It was not too happy a voyage, because they set out, and the first month they got as far as Rothsay, because they got a storm in the mouth of the Clyde and lots of damage, and to shelter there and get repairs. And then they get down as far as Cork in Ireland. And in Cork they discovered that one of the Skymen who come ashore had brought smallpox with him. So the whole ship had to go into quarantine. It was 3 months in the whole bowline quarantine, which was a floating bark off the shore of Cork, because of course the Irish wouldn't let them ashore with the disease. And they set off, a lot of them had to be left behind, but they set off again in April, and they finally got to Australia at the end of July. That was from 26th December to 26th July that they were in that boat. If they were able to stay in that boat, if they were too ill, they were taken off eventually in Cork, and they followed in other boats later on. But you say, you think they're travelling to Australia now, you think they're travelling in a fairly straight line, or even at least going down through the Suez Canal or something. But at that time they travelled, you're going from Glasgow to Cork in Ireland, and you're going right down the Cape of Good Hope to get round to the south end of Australia and so on. And think it took them 7 months. 7 months in the boat. Now, you'd hope they'd have a happy ending at the end of all that. And the answer is, I don't know. We've dealt with work for a lot of descendants of people who went out in these ships, the emigrants, the Hercules, the Priscilla, both of them, but have never actually come across a descendant of Donald MacDonald and Margaret McCaskill being all hung around. But I'd love to know, did they finally make it and have a good life in Australia? They surely deserved one by that time.